And we are back. Sorry about the disappearing act, folks. Things got crazy. Gary got pissed and had to go back to work. It's been a whole thing. But we are back. So, does anyone remember those Hostel movies? A bunch of backpackers get lured from a hostel and rich people pay to kill and torture them for funsies? Well, according to the internet, Eli Roth, the writer and director of those movies, was inspired by a conversation that he had with a guy who said that he came across a Thai murder vacation website on the dark web where one could pay $10,000 to shoot someone dead. Now, there was a very good chance that that person was lying or Roth was making up the story to gain publicity for the movie, but it did make the public ask themselves, yet again, could human hunting organisations actually exist? And that's what we're going to look at today. Before we begin, we post death and dying related videos every Friday, so if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. Now, buckle up, this is going to be a long one with more than a few tangents. Sorry about that. Now, let's talk human hunting. Firstly, do we have solid evidence that pay-for-play human hunting organisations exist? No. But we wouldn't, would we? Because that would be bad for business. So allow me to build a case for their possible existence. And if you aren't in a good frame of mind about the world right now, this isn't the video for you, you've been warned. Trophy hunters. Trophy hunting involves people paying to kill wild animals for the purpose of displaying parts of the animal such as the head or hide as mementos. Trophy hunting is not about food or survival, it is about status, identity and control. This business model and the personalities that take up this opportunity provide an almost perfect template for a human hunting organisation. Rich clients pay for access to private land, guides set up the hunt, and the tourist gets to kill something for entertainment. Hunters often view killing of rare or dangerous animals as a personal accomplishment. Displaying trophies, mounted heads, skins or photographs serves as a visible marker of bravery, skill and social rank within their peer group. In this way, hunting becomes less about necessity and more about signalling identity and achievement. The amount of crippling insecurity about your place in the world that you must feel within yourself to feel the need to do that, I cannot comprehend. For some hunters, the pursuit also provides a rush of excitement. Stalking and killing a dangerous prey can trigger an adrenaline response, appealing to the sensation-seeking personalities who thrive on risk and novelty. To participate in trophy hunting, however, hunters must suppress or compartmentalize empathy for the animal. Over time, repeated exposure can normalize this emotional detachment, making the act of killing feel routine rather than morally troubling. Cultural reinforcement further supports this mindset. Within certain circles, trophy hunting is framed as tradition, conservation, or even a form of adventure tourism. This narrative provides moral cover, reducing the cognitive dissonance and allowing hunters to justify their actions as legitimate or even beneficial. All this reasoning could be applied to the personalities that may seek out a human hunting experience. You could easily imagine that some of these people would even frame it as good for the environment in dealing with overpopulation. History shows us that whenever humans successfully dehumanize others, they can rationalize almost any form of cruelty, even turning it into entertainment. And as a side note, does anyone else get the feeling that there are particular gun owners out there who are just itching for the chance to use it on a human being? Like, the only reason they actually have them is that they hope that they will be able to feel that power just once. But of course, they can't say that, so they say it's for protection and Second Amendment and all of that. Yes, I'm looking at you, US. Not all of you, just those ones. Nope, that's just me. Okay, sadism. There are many people who will say, "No, I don't think sadists exist. I've never met one." Which is a strong way of saying, I think bad people look a certain way. In which case, allow me to step aside from this video's main point for a moment and bring in some critical thinking and probably your fear of shopping centres. So, say you're in a packed shopping centre. Maybe it's a few weeks before Christmas and everyone is out and about doing last minute things. And let's be on the conservative end of numbers here and say there are around 1,000 people in that shopping centre at the same time that you are. Now, let's take a look at some of the statistics of the type of people that most people say they wouldn't want to be around. Research suggests that 1 to 5% of adult men report sexual interest in children, but only a smaller fraction ever act on it. Since around half the 1,000 shoppers would be men, let's assume 500 men. If 1 to 5% have such an interest, that means somewhere between 5 and 25 men in that crowd could fit in that category. The number of active offenders would be lower, but the interest itself is not rare. Next up, psychopathy is estimated at around 1% of the general population, but higher in prison populations and corporate leadership, which we will come back to a bit later. So, in that 1,000 people, that would mean there's about 10 psychopaths present in that shopping centre with you. Next up, murderers. Homicide conviction rates in countries like Australia, the UK and the US are rather low. For example, Australia averages around 1 homicide per 100,000 people per year. Lifetime prevalence is tricky to measure, but criminologists suggest that less than 0.1% of the population has committed murder. In a crowd of 1,000, odds are very low that a convicted murderer are present, maybe 1 in 1,000 or fewer, so that's good. Sex offenders, on the other hand, have quite a scary stat. In Australia, the US, the UK, registry and conviction data suggests that 0.3 to 0.6% of adult men have recorded sexual offence conviction. Women are rarely convicted of such offences, making up less than 5% of offenders. That translates to about 1 in 200 to 1 in 300 adult men having a conviction of a sexual crime. Applying this to the shopping centre scenario, of those 100 people, roughly half the crowd will be men, so around 500 males. If 0.3 to 0.6% of them are registered sex offenders, that equals 1 to 3 men in the crowd who likely have a conviction for a sexual offence. But convictions only capture those that have been caught and prosecuted, and sexual offending is very underreported. So the true number of people who have committed a sexual offence at least once is higher than the conviction rate statistics show. Now, sadists, the ones that you say don't exist because apparently you've never met one. Studies on sexual sadism find that 2 to 5% of the general population show strong sadistic traits. In a group of 1,000, that might be between 20 and 50 people with significant sadistic tendencies. Now, try applying this to a football stadium of, say, 50,000 people and substitute the type of people that you'll get in a shopping centre for the type of people you'd often see in a stadium. Aren't statistics fun? My point here is that sadism and those with significantly high traits of it are a lot more common than you would think. So there are a lot more people out there who derive sexual pleasure from hurting others than you may have thought of. Now, of course, not all these people would be willing or able to pay for the privilege of this hypothetical human hunting organisation, but it's not because the idea offends them. The rich and their secrets. The ultra-rich already use secrecy and privilege to commit serious crimes with low risk of exposure and have done throughout history. A striking recent example is Jeffrey Epstein, who ran a vast sex trafficking network on a private island, exploiting young women and minors while protected by immense wealth, connections and intimidation. That case is tied to many other ultra-rich people who apparently have no issue with, or indeed are very happy about, such arrangements. Of course, the other alleged case going on at the moment is the P. Diddy case. That is likely to take down not just him, but many other ultra-rich individuals. And these are just 2 recent cases in one country that are being covered a lot by the media. Think of all the ones we don't know about. And sure, they weren't part of any human hunting that we're aware of, but if they can so easily and willingly participate in alleged pedophilia and human trafficking, what's to say they may not enjoy other horrible things? The difference being that photos and lists probably wouldn't be a part of a human hunting organisation. It would likely be more of an individualised service rather than a group one, which many argue isn't a viable business model. They say that demand wouldn't be high enough, but these are human traffickers. Do you really think that that would be their only revenue source? Like that's the only way they would use a human being? Seriously? Also, as we've said in other videos, it takes a certain type of personality to get to that high income, high powered status because it often requires shady dealings and not caring about others' feelings. And once that kind of personality gets to the top with more money than a small country, nothing is really off limits. Still highly illegal, but legality seems to become more of a fluid concept on that level. But of course, you don't have to be rich to kill. Hi all! Our analytics tell us that most people who watch our videos aren't subscribed, so if you're enjoying this video and would like to see more of it, please click the like and subscribe buttons below. It really does help out the channel. And with that, let's get back to it. Serial killers. Another argument for the possibility of human hunting groups existing are the fact that serial killers exist. Many of them. And we really don't have a say in that. There are people out there who already hunt humans for fun or sexual pleasure. Which does beg the question, why would someone engage in a human hunting organisation if they can just DIY it? Well, much like trophy hunters could DIY it, why make it difficult on yourself? The DIY version takes time. There's no guarantee of a kill. You gotta clean up, make sure you don't get caught. And of course, you need someone to take that photo at the end of the game. You're really paying for the convenience at that point. Much like you could book a holiday yourself or go through a travel agent, and you could organise a funeral yourself or go through a funeral director, for some people convenience wins out over authentic experience. Also, do we really think these ultra-rich people would have the know-how to do any of the DIY stuff themselves? They would have to blend in with the everyday folk. But speaking of serial killers, I want to point out one in particular as a case in point for this hypothetical situation. Robert Hansen. In Alaska, US, back in the 70s, early 80s, Hansen was known to stalk women who were often teenagers or sex workers, pick them up in his car and abduct them. He would take his victims to a remote place outside Anchorage via his car or sometimes flying in his small plane. From there, he would rape them and then let them loose in the wilderness so he could hunt them down. And he is believed to have killed 17 women in this manner. And like many serial killers who take decades to get caught, if they ever are, he was successful because he picked individuals who he knew would be, quote, hardly missed. Speaking of which, hardly missed. Some say the idea of human hunting is implausible because, unlike animals, humans have families who would report them missing and identities that could be tracked. Disappearances are investigated. A consistent pattern of kidnapped victims disappearing into hunting grounds would leave a trail of evidence. Maintaining secrecy would be far more difficult than people often imagine, they say. On the other hand, families, particularly in overwhelming poverty, often sell or hand over family members for profit. In certain countries, girls are often given to old men in forced marriages so they can get enough money to eat for a while. Babies are often sold for great profit to the rich. People today, just like throughout all of history, are still being sold into slavery. Human trafficking is rife in today's world. It has never gone away. In collectivist cultures, the group survival outweighs the need of individual survival in many ways, but it still happens in individualistic cultures as well. The slave trade still exists today, and to owners they are property, and for the right price they are likely to say, sure, have at it. And this has happened throughout the entirety of history. People forget that this kind of organisation would never run in a country like Canada or Australia, where it is more likely that a missing person will be investigated. But also, they so often aren't investigated. Australia still has thousands of people listed as long-term missing. No, this would happen in extremely overpopulated countries where conducting a census is almost impossible, where corruption is rife, where crime isn't looked into, where the most obvious of murders aren't even looked into, let alone some random missing person whose family isn't saying anything. So it wouldn't be like the Hostel movies where backpackers go missing, because that would quickly be caught onto. It's more likely that these individuals would be kidnapped from highly populated areas or sold from property. What evidence do we have that human hunting organisations exist? None, really. But here's a thought. I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of person. That said, do I believe Al-Qaeda was responsible for 9/11? Yes. But would I be shocked if it turned out that it was orchestrated by the CIA and hidden from us? Not in the slightest. Why? Because of everything we know about the CIA, what it has done, and the sacrifices it has made to get those things done. Similarly, do I think human hunting groups exist? I don't know. I'm someone that needs facts and evidence to believe in something. But would I be shocked if I found out that there's a massive high-powered cover-up to hide the fact that it's going on? Hell no. Because it serves a higher, ultra-rich purpose for us not to know. You may not be a sick freak, your friends may not be a sick freak, but statistics say there are a lot out there. And you give them money and access, many have proven that they will take full advantage of that. And they aren't all pale-faced tech bros, though I would bet big money that they have some skeletons in their closets. The rich have proven that they do not see the poor as human, they are willing to use their money to corrupt, and thus they don't need to conform or hide their true twisted desires like others do. If these people want something hidden, for there to be no evidence for us to find, then that's exactly what's going to happen. Let me know your thoughts about all this in the comments. There's a great research paper that I'll link in the description that looks at the likelihood of human hunting becoming a form of tourism entertainment in the future. That's not the only research paper out there on this topic. There are many out there that look at this from different angles. And people today often like to look at the past and say how uncivilized these people were, which has always kind of irked me. But when you break down this kind of argument for this kind of activity, you become very aware of how we may not have come as far as you think. And I only just scratched the surface. And with that, go talk death.